like, oh, yeah, actually, uThermal did pretty good, but those times are long gone. And now we're looking at a Serral that's really damn good. uThermal's coming off a break a little bit, but absolutely has chances in this group. And already up to no good is that man spawning over in the bottom left as our blue Terran. It is uThermal.
In the top right, as the red Zerg for Team NC is Serral.
And look at that Overlord, Zombie Grub. that is, you know, I mean, this isn't the most, what's it called, hidden proxy 2-Rex ever. And Serral's just like, oh, and uThermal's like, oh, I think I saw his eyebrow raise, actually. And by his, I mean uThermal. I think he was just like, oh, that probably got scouted a bit faster than normal. Oh, droney boys.
Yeah. Catching it so fast that figures that pulling the drones would be absolutely worth it. If you pull the drones, especially too many drones, and you don't get the cancels or kills on the SCVs, then it can sometimes backfire for the Zerg. But that usually happens like a bit of a later scout, right? When the SCVs actually have a chance to finish, you know, maybe one Rax, if not both. By the looks of things here, it seems unlikely that any Rax will finish. uThermal is consistently sending out SCVs to try and make at least one finish. But if he doesn't let any finish, then this could be GG.
It could be. I think it's already kind of GG, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, okay, let's see what uThermal can do with one barracks up. There's another SCV. Oh, he's going for Reapers here. Oh, but oh, my goodness. Okay, I mean, that is about as bad a start as you can have. Like, yes, that was 3 drones not mining, but 3 drones actually straight up killing 4 SCVs and making it so it's only 1 barracks. Well, that's a trade you'll take any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Serral is happy with that. uThermal had to be prepared for this predicament, but probably more prepared again for a bit of a later scout. Maybe he barely finishes one of the barracks, maybe both, but with a little less, extra SCVs brought to the front. And instead, it went about as poorly as it ever could. So Reaper just turns this into a 1 Reaper expand, if you will. But it's going to be so painfully awkward here for uThermal.
You know what's also really sad? Like, okay, the Queens can obviously deflect this Reaper, but look what Serral did with those Lings on the bottom of the map. He kind of scooted out there, realizing, oh, I don't need to worry now. Like, whatever came out of there, it's too late. He kind of... I hope he runs for that natural for his sake, because he could have potentially, you know, got the SV kill, but he's actually respecting his opponent a lot here. Maybe going to use those at a later time.
Just hide. I guess see the Reaper again could go in, but it's not like he's going to be waiting for speed, or if he is, he's going to be waiting for a very long time. But that'll just be for a scout, perhaps, as the Overlord also kind of sneaks its way into the backside, more so guarantees that it's going to get a scout, although with the fact that the barracks is out in the middle of the map, it already pretty much has a guaranteed scout if it wanted to go in. uThermal is going to produce maybe just 1 Marine, but if we do see him producing more, then he could try something like a Hellbat follow-up. Problem is that, you know, these follow-ups from a 2-Rax, a successful 2-Rax, have already been, I feel, mostly figured out from Zerg players. So the fact that this was an unsuccessful 2-Rax feels like anything that uThermal follows up with is just not going to work.
No, absolutely. And Serral over here, he's just droned up pretty damn good. He's taking his 3rd. He's now making quite a few extra Lings. Now, sending 1 Ling into Scout, I think that was a good move. uThermal, though, that is very cute positioning by him here, like keeping that 1 Marine at bay with the 3 bodyguards. And yeah, they're both handling this about as well as they can, and you keep it. Wow. Tell you what, nicely handled by uThermal there.
Yeah, points from Micro. That was pretty impressive. Does slip on the macro just for a second, you know, while he's doing all that micro, but he has a 3rd CC on the way. He is going into at least a Hellion drop, which again is another expected follow-up to the 2-Rax. So Serral, you know, he's got the Overlord there. He's going to have some Speedlings to chase after and give time for his Queens to follow up too. I don't think uThermal is necessarily expecting a whole lot from the Hellions, especially because I think the Medevac just got scouted as well. But some type of pressure that isn't just based around killing creep tumors and actually could maybe threaten the drone line. I think that's better than nothing, especially because he is getting a 3rd CC behind this.
Yeah, like, we're not going to beat around the bush, right? Like, the situation's pretty bad for uThermal, but the choice of trying to go for straight economy damage after such a bad opening, it's kind of like, what else does he do at this point? And here, Serral just kind of picking off an SCV, and he seems to be in good position to deal with this drop as well. This just feels, I mean, it was a disaster of a start for uThermal. I'm looking forward to see what he can try and do, but I'm also looking forward to see what Serral does when he's just left to his own devices.
Pretty much what's happening. uThermal does add a little bit of a trick here and goes for a second medevac, which is pretty cool, but it's going to be scouted by the Ling on the Xel'Naga, so it's not going to be a surprise. And I think Serral has plenty of time to even look at it and say, oh, that's a medevac, not maybe a liberator, right? So should be able to defend rather nicely. There's nothing at the fourth base to even kill anyway. So the second pair of Hellions probably going to try and shoot into the natural, which I believe already has a Spore and a Queen ready to go. Serral is just defending everything pretty perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, he's in good shape this game and has been right from the start, and he's going for a Spire as well. And I mean, Serral's good with his Mutalisk. I remember that Aces Rog, not the last one, but the one before when Widowmines were just connecting with him, but he's really stepped it up. But in this game, like the real ace up uThermal sleeve is these two drops with Hellions in. But with the Mutas going to be on the way, and the fact that Serral's denying everything so damn well, such a rough position to be in.
Kudos to uThermal for keeping the medevac drops alive. Even managed to find a sort of weak point in Serral's defenses, although it didn't really last very long. But yeah, it's eventually the Hellions are going to have to realize they got to come back, and that is a question I have now. Did uThermal see the Spire at any point? He did, actually. Just barely. I don't know if he could... I think he would know that's a Spire, not a Spine Crawler kind of randomly in the middle of a game, but he might pull back his medevacs now and use those Hellions for Hellbats, which would be better than just letting them get destroyed by the Mutas.
Yeah, definitely in here. Like, Serral does sacrifice a few Lings and, leaving them behind and trying to harass with the Hellions as well. And what's happening on the other side of the map? These Lings do clean up quite a few Hellions, getting them Widowmines as well. I mean, anything that happens that's kind of like an equal trade is obviously not equal when Serral's been so far ahead.
I think uThermal was really hoping that those offensive Lings were all of the Lings that Serral had, so he would be able to unload these no problem, and that's why he focused some micro on it. But that just turned around on him, right? Like, that was the micro on the opposite side of the map that made sure he didn't micro his Hellions, couldn't save the Widowmines, and lost a bit more, I guess, with the Marines. So, and of course, the Hellion drop didn't do anything. It finally got cleaned up. uThermal, he's got to push, but the Mutas are coming in. The missile turrets are not prepared. Perhaps he did not see that that was a Spire, which I don't necessarily blame him. That's so just, like, almost barely not seeing the fact that it's a Spire, so this is just awkward.
Yeah, and also it's one of those things, right? When you're so far behind, like if you get turrets, then you're just kind of cementing your behind position. He wanted to use all his resources just to try and kill his opponent, but, you know, maybe he didn't realize how far behind he was. And here, like, he's giving it a good go, as he absolutely should. But man, those Mutas, I mean, there's almost as many Mutas as there are Marines. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but yeah. It's
still a scary sight. 31 Marines, just not a lot. And this, when Serral's on 4, going on 5 bases, 77 drones. I guess the only good thing going for uThermal really is the fact that his upgrades are already done, but they're not helping him in any way, so he is going to tap out, and Serral takes the 1-0. He took it when he destroyed the T-Rex, though, is the honest truth. So it was watching, what, 8 minutes, 9 minutes of a game that was pretty much over for minute 2.
Pretty much, but kudos to uThermal for kind of sticking in it after that, because I would have left. And I know that uThermal is, like, he can be emotional, right? Like, there's been games where he's doing, like, an 8 racks against Zerg, and an Ultra popped onto his screen, and he was, like, insta GG and left the game, you know? Like, it's happened. So, yeah, I wouldn't have blamed him in that situation. Also, like, the fact that Serral only pulled 3 drones, that was actually, like, it was the perfect number. Like, I've seen a lot of people really overreact, but it was like he could always have 1 drone hitting on either side, have 1 just kind of meandering to help it out as well. It was, I mean, everything that Serral did that game was just really good.
Yeah, he had a 3rd drone, not just to help out, but I think it also was kind of tasked with seeing if more SCVs are going to be pulled.
Right.
and just, you know, try and make sure that he could, in fact, demolish it. And
scouting for a 3rd racks as well, because you scout the first 2, but you never know with uThermal, because, yeah, that's I don't want to say it could be a bit of PTSD from the olden days where it's like not just a proxy 3x, but a proxy 4x. But yeah, it's good for Serral just to be a little bit safer. But yeah, unfortunate for uThermal, because very often you're like, no way will a Zerg scout in this very obvious location. Like, they're just going to send their overlord directly to my natural kind of thing, which is very normal. But yeah, that was too sixth sensey by Serral. And spawning over in the bottom right, representing against, it is Serral.
In the upper left of Lightshade, we have the blue Terran. For Team Liquid, he is uThermal.
Yeah, a game like that, I think it's okay to play it out, just to kind of play with the nerves a little bit, right? Like the first game, if you leave straight away to like 1 minute 30 in and it's like, oh, well, like it just feels bad. It can really get to you, even though it was like StarCraft can be like a spiraling out of control. It's all exponential and stuff. What happens at the start is way worse. But yeah, I think also just playing it out a bit, making sure. And to be fair, how bad it went early on, the fact that he got to like 120 supply versus 140, 150, that's actually quite impressive by uThermal. Like his build behind it all, the 2 Hellion drops, if that game went as planned, yeah, I think we could see something very cool from him.
It's promising that he took it with grace, you know? He actually just said, okay, I think that was a disaster, but I can play out to a certain extent. Because I think a lot of the Zergs, especially Serral, are going to choose the macro, get ahead when you're already ahead type of situation. There's not many Zergs I even feel that go for the try to kill him right now because the 2 racks failed. Let's go for roaches, although it is sometimes an option. So uThermal just went 3rd CC, tried to go for a lot of harassment, not even something that's truly dedicated like a Hellbat push would be. And I love that decision. When you know that everything else is just going really poorly, you try and pick what could bring you back into the game. But it didn't matter if it was harassment, didn't matter if it was an all-in, didn't matter if it was 3cc or 2cc. Serral was going to have not just perfect defense, but also pretty perfect scouting with all of the tools that he had. So now we're in a more even game, just by the fact that they both did build that they wanted to do successfully.
Yeah, nothing got scouted and thrown off, and the 2 really, well, I mean, Zerg, they don't really deviate too much from the other game, but this is about as textbook as it gets nowadays. I still see just 1 gas for uThermal as well, meaning he's probably going to go for the 3cc. Then it's a question of, does he go for the 2-1-1 after, or does he go for the starport and such?
Yeah, that is, I want to say if you're going to play greedy, play super greedy and go for the 2 barracks immediately, but there's some merit in the starport and still getting even like a safety banshee. But it's up to what uThermal wants to do. The 3rd CC is a strong macro statement. Looks like it's going to be a starport just with the 1 SCV being pulled. There you have it. So could still be going into a delayed Hellion Banshee even, or maybe just Hellions and Viking and Stim, but it is Serral going for the Overlord speed. He does not want to be surprised by anything. And what he's going to see, even without Overlord speed, his Overlord could just see the 3rd CC right here, right now, is that, yeah, it's a go ahead to macro.
Yeah, he might even cancel the Overlord speed as well, you know, like given that it's going to be in his vision very, very quickly. Although that Overlord is just sitting there. Maybe he's going to wait for the Overlord speed before diving on in. But yeah, I remember a long time ago, Serral was kind of the guy going Overlord speed. He went in pretty much every matchup, and or when I say every matchup, against Terran every time. Oh, it's the question here. Does he? Just going to keep on going with it.
Yeah. I do think there is stuff that goes beyond the 3rd CC that you'd want to scout. So, I mean, I would have been okay with either option, really, but still sticks with it, and then is going to see that, in fact, it's not going to be any amount of Banshees, is probably going to see, you know, the 2 gas of the natural, say, okay, it's not some surprising mech build, which I would say uThermal could throw out a mech game, but I'm not sure it would have been on Lightshade, and just the full confirmation means that Serral is going to go full beast mode macro, and now it's a question of can uThermal catch up, because he is the underdog here. He hasn't won against Serral in a very long time. He takes maps, yeah, but usually not series. So it is, can uThermal use a macro build against the macro god that is Serral and actually win with it?
I actually think uThermal's got insanely good control even now. We kind of saw it in the first game with that body blocking with the SCV, although it was just a minor moment. It was really good, right? But yeah, the speed from Serral. I also think Serral's got it in his mind that he is against somebody that you have to respect. Like, even though Serral is the favorite, being the favorite also puts quite a lot of pressure on your, like, from yourself, and knowing that uThermal, he can whip out like 2-star battle cruiser and stuff, just getting the confirmation that he's being legitimate in the game, like an honest player. Yeah, I like how they're both handling this, honestly.
I do think it's important to point that out. Serral is absolutely still taking uThermal seriously and as a potential threat, especially because I feel like Serral is absolutely a guy who's like, I need to go 100% or I failed. So he takes map losses almost like as a personal, insult. You see it on this camera now. That DreamHack has given us so many moments with those cameras. So he definitely just wants to go ahead and get this a clean 2-0 because he certainly knows he's capable of it. uThermal going to be showing us his macro game, which certainly isn't bad. This is actually some of the ways he has taken maps off of Serral. Because I think initially I say take maps and people are like, oh, what did he do? Some type of Hellbot Marauder thing? And it's like, well, some of the maps for sure. But other ones, yeah, he's been able to go toe-to-toe with Serral, maybe take a surprisingly good kind of mid-game push, get a good Wood-of-Mine shot, and then actually snowball to the extent that we would expect maybe Clem to. But it doesn't happen too often. I do think this is still an uphill battle for uThermal.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking at the map as well, Zombie Grubbin. I don't know what happened to the Reaper exactly. Maybe it was just used for scouting, but these Hellions, they haven't really been used to fight against creep. Oh my goodness. That is a lot of lings on the left side. Honestly, I thought it was going to be more fair, evenly spread, but the Hellions are caught out. Finally, a few more lings showing up. Upgrades are finishing up for Serral as well, but yeah, losing out on those Hellions may not sound like much, but those guys turning into Hellbats helps a lot with this little push.
Or even a couple stay behind and defend the third base, right? Like, we've seen that being used too. I'm really surprised he didn't try and escape that path to the right side, because there's only 4 lanes on that side, and they got destroyed pretty easily, but I guess he basically saw it and gave up on it, just so he could focus on other things. So he tried to focus on this push. It doesn't really get anywhere, despite his full attention put onto it, and it is forced to pick up and go home, but at least it mostly survives. It'll be added in later with a bigger push, with 1-1 and combat shields finished too, because they were missing for that little scuffle there.
Yeah, and if we look at this game, if we go back to the economy of it all, Serral up to 5 bases now. Not all saturated, but he's definitely got a bit of a worker lead here. He's dealing with this harass really well too. It's really sad when you're at, even up here, the Banelings, these slow Banelings getting pretty okay connections, and uThermal struggling to do anything on the map, it feels like.
At least he's left with enough to bother Serral. Serral's still going to have to divvy up his forces against the Wood-of-Mines, although it seems like it was taken care of super easily. And does have to replant the creep. But as far as dual-pronged harassment goes, it's not doing enough. They're dying, first of all, so they're not going to be perpetual as uThermal sets up a 4th CC. So he's already losing, at least some map control that some other Terrans would have. And they're not really clearing up a whole lot of creep spread. So Serral's not having the worst go of replacing it. And they've never even found the queens. I think that's the real golden ticket for a lot of Terrans, if they manage to find the queens undefended. But that's not even happening here.
No, and look at them. They've both got like equal armies out on the map kind of thing. 141 versus 142. And they're both playing it with 2 armies on the map too. That kind of thing. Like, the Terran can trade really well, and for the time being, they're on equal upgrades. But Serral, moving on to Hive, he's got 2-2 much faster, going for Hydralisk then as well, so inevitably Lurkers, I'd imagine. Right now, Serral's he's in his comfort zone here.
Handling everything with ease, including all of the Wood-of-Mines, which uThermal did an excellent job of spacing, by the way, so that every time a Wood-of-Mine was attacked, another one was kind of protecting it. So it could have worked better, it just didn't. Serral was on top of it every single time. But at the very least, while it's not really digging into the creep and really opening up an opportunity for a really threatening push later on, it is keeping the creep at bay. So it's definitely not the worst, harassment that we've seen, especially as this force is a little bit bigger. It's actually trying to threaten.
Oy.
Oh, nice Wood-of-Mine shot, finally. It's, okay, a second almost got a pretty good shot, but no. Another pick up on the right side. uThermal might have lost a handful of Marines, been pushed back with some of these drops occasionally, but he has been doing a wonderful job macroing, apparently toe-to-toe with Serral. But Serral, he is the one that's going up to this Hive. He's going to go into Lurkers. Does uThermal have a solid chance against that perfect late-game composition? Because I assume Serral is going to get to the perfect late-game composition. He's not being pressured that much. And then we see a lot of Terrans struggle against something like well-controlled Lurker and Viper.
Yeah, it's actually going to... Oh, that friendly fire from that Widowmine was pretty brutal. But yeah, look at Serral. Hits tier 3. It's like 2 Vipers start up, plus 3 Carapace as well. Super damn fast. The only thing missing is maybe like spines and stuff. Oh, as I say that, he gets it as soon as he had the gas. Actually, both these guys with their minerals, like, they haven't really gone above 200 while they've been macroing. I mean, just now. But yeah, they're both nearing maxed out.
Both playing great games. Absolutely. History has just taught us to kind of expect more from Serral in regard to this matchup. But uThermal, if he can, I think this is the really important point. If he can transition correctly, if he really knows how to play from this mid game into the late game, then, you know, I still have a lot of hope for him as he's going toe-to-toe with Serral right now. But oftentimes, this is where we kind of see the, I don't know, the difference of the really good Terrans and the really excellent Terrans, the ones who can adapt to the Zerg finally maybe even pushing them. You know, it's been nothing but uThermal pushing into Serral. It could turn around once the lurkers get higher in numbers, or if uThermal starts losing out in these drops. This last-minute spread was decent enough, and now we got some chonky Marauders being added in. So every time Serral thinks that he's done with it, you know, a Baneling connected, it's not actually the case. Marauders live past that, could be enough to continue forward. As we kind of see here, it will have to be picked up eventually, but even another Widowmine shot going pretty well.
And, you know, like, I'm really impressed with how they're both dealing with a lot of this, because this isn't easy how uThermal's playing against Serral. And look at the bottom of the map, too. This is just such a small, ill army. Kind of a really tricky one to engage. And he's really carving into the creep here. And this is a real battle for Serral to respread. And you see he's getting his Vipers ready. He's getting ready to break out through this, because this is a really important point of the map. Oh!
I mean, at this point, uThermal's even been trading better. There's been so many Ling losses from some of these, you know, the last like 4 Widowmine hits have done really well. So that is adding to the resources lost. But just in general, Serral having to dedicate so many Lings, you know, he is the Zerg race. He's supposed to be spending a little bit more. And uThermal is successful with that. He also seems to be successfully transitioning not just into pressure with Marauders, with some Liberators, but also expanding across the map as he continues to keep Serral suppressed. It's when it flips in momentum that I get concerned for the Terran. But as long as uThermal actually has this position and a nasty position at that on Lightshade, I'm going to continue being impressed by uThermal here.
He's actually handling this really well. The bit I'm scared about, Zombie Grub, is when both those lurker upgrades come online. They've got 3 armor now. And look at the upgrades for Serral. He's actually been non-stop with his Evos. Just every time an upgrade is free to upgrade, he gets it. So they're going to be very upgraded Zerg units, and of course the Nidus on the way as well.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, Serral finally does something across the map. This is what's really been missing. It's going to add to, you know, does Terran look good or not? Once they start getting pressured as well, that is like the better test, and that's going to eventually include that Nidus run potentially into the main base. Serral still has an Overlord tucked into the top left, which I imagine is exactly the one he's going to use to go for the Nidus. And that's actually what I'm even waiting for. I know there's so many other things that are going to happen before we see a Nidus worm, but that could be it if that Nidus worm gets up in the main base.
By the way, I gotta say, like, a lot of things that are happening off screen are really cool. Like Zerglings at every base, just to make sure that uThermal has to scan, but also to allow Serral to see when it's happening. It's really annoying. There's Baneling bombs in certain locations as well. But now the game's getting kind of out of control. As you said, now the Zerg can start to be aggressive, and I think Serral's going to make chaos happen while setting up that Nidus.
uThermal's trying his best to control all the different attacks. He's trying to make sure that he splits just enough. So here he split initially just his bio, but then realized, okay, Banelings are also coming, so he had to lift, he had to get his Widowmines, and it's not all happening perfectly, but it is happening. He is defending these points. The burrowed Banelings are awesome, but so far not quite working with the AI of uThermal's movements. And actually, a bigger attack up to the top right. Liberators siege up as well. Lurkers are already burrowed, and they will draw the line in the sand. I mean, the Liberators kind of do too. No one can really pass it, but there's the Nidus Worm. uThermal seems to know it's there. He's got units, but then doesn't actually go after it. Okay, I was a little bit concerned, but that should do fine.
I mean, yeah, that was literally like a second away from going up. Like, any later there, but the Nidusing won't stop. And now uThermal obviously knows, but so far he's actually doing a really good job of just being prepared and knowledgeable about this.
Yeah, I think... Did he see that? Yeah, he sees that. Well, I wonder if that tank was just going to go back and siege up at the third just, because, but it inadvertently finds the Nidus Swarm. Can't stop it from unleashing the Lurkers, however, and uThermal's main army is being chased down. Parasitic Bomb on top of everything as well, so as he tries to make a stand with the army, it's just going to not go well whatsoever. uThermal losing his forward pressure and now losing control over his third CC. It's not game over yet, but he is now taking a beating. Another Nidus Swarm goes to the main base too. Fortunately, a tank is covering that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those were some juicy Widowmine shots going off. The supplies are still pretty damn close. The thing is, Serral is mining so freely, both on the same work account, actually, and uThermal is now adding on Ghost. It's just, it's going to be uThermal under pressure, right? Like, how does he get across the map to slow down the economy of Serral when being under such an onslaught?
Trying to get some harassment in there. The Widowmine drops, a couple Liberators sieging up. That's kind of the extent of what he can do, because a lot of his army is going to have to be prepared for gigantic run-bys or the Nidus Swarm being able to unload. But he's trying to do at least one decent push. He's going to find Lurkers and Facts, and that's going to be too much to handle. Ducks as well on top of the tanks. That's no longer a position that he can really hold. The Nidus Swarm and the Natural did unleash a few Lurkers, which are being handled, it seems, rather well. And uThermal has managed to at least add on some Ghosts here, and he's still able to max out again if he's given a breather, but it looks like Serral currently maxed out, overrunning the static defense in the middle of the map. Could just continue with the onslaught into the Natural.
I mean, Serral's army is not dipping below 200 supply. And the constant Nidusing in the back of uThermal's base as well. uThermal can't catch a breath of fresh air here. And the Baling's marching as well. The tank's getting kind of taken out. Not the, well, I was going to say not the most efficient, but it's enough. GG.
Yeah.